Back here on HQ, there's a lot of new in Seattle for the upcoming season, right? You got the same head coach and Mike Macdonald. This year is year 2 for him, but there's a new quarterback in town. That is Sam Darnold, who is going to be under center for Seattle. Sam Darnold had a remarkable run with the Vikings, a Pro Bowl season, but just not the most ideal ending to that season, right? Seattle, they opened their season against San Francisco. They also bookended with San Francisco as well. And Sam Darnold also has a new weapon on offense in Cooper Kupp, who he's going to be throwing the ball to as well. Let's welcome on our Super Bowl champs, Bryant McFadden, and also a guy who knows a thing or two about the Seahawks, and Robert Turbin. Welcome, gentlemen, here. Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about the Seahawks and a season outlook. We're no longer talking about Geno and DK. We're looking at Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp. So for that aspect of the offense, Mac, I'll come to you first here. What are your expectations for the offense when you're considering all of the new pieces that Seattle picked up in the offseason?
Honestly, Jacqueline, for me, Rob, to be determined. I don't know, because we don't know exactly the consistency in which the quarterback will give them in terms of production in Sam Darnold. Remember, before 2024, Sam Darnold was an emotional roller coaster in terms of being consistent and, most importantly, making routine plays happen routinely. But then came the opportunity with Kevin O'Connell in the Minnesota Vikings that led to a 4,300 passing yard season, completed around 66% of his passes, 35 passing touchdowns. Really exceeded the expectations because there were no expectations. But because of how well he played a year ago, he was able to turn that outstanding season into a nice contractual opportunity with the Seattle Seahawks. And get this, he is QB1. So can he live up to the billing? Because before 2024, Robert, we've never seen the level of play from Sam Darnold in his professional career before he got with Kevin O'Connell in the Minnesota Vikings. Now, because of the contract, the expectations are higher than what they were a year ago. Can he live up to those expectations, Robert? Not just in week 1, week 2, week 3, but the entire season, because that's what they paid for. And because of how his career started before 2024, I don't know if he can live up to the billing. So that's why it's to be determined for me, because I got to see it before I believe it.
Yeah, it's so crazy because the conversation would be so different if those last 2 games were had different endings for Sam Darnold, right? Robert, I'll come to you here because you know what it takes, right, to win a Super Bowl with this organization as a running back. I know you have a relationship with Ken Walker. So what are the conversations being had? What is the vibe there in that backfield as they're looking to try to get to the pinnacle once again?
Well, it's all positive. And B-Mac, you make a great point in terms of Sam Darnold and, you know, all the things that he's going to have to establish coming into being the starting quarterback this season. And another piece of that is, what's the relationship going to be like between him and new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak? And the thing that Sam Darnold had in Minnesota, run game behind Aaron Jones. He had one of the best wide receivers in Justin Jefferson. Not necessarily a downgrade when he comes to Seattle, but they do have to do a better job establishing their run game with Kendall Walker III, Zach Charbonnet, and the rest of those running backs in the running back room. What is Jackson Smith-Njigba going to do this season? He took a huge step last year. Can he take another one? Obviously, Cooper Kupp is out there as well, the savvy veteran, but can he still get separation in one-on-one coverage? And so, you know, a lot of the attention gets put on the quarterback, and rightfully so, but it is a team game. The rest of the offense is going to have to hold their fort as well, the offensive line being a big piece of that also. Now, they drafted a left guard, Greg Zabel, in the first round to boost the interior of that offensive line, but are they going to be able to hold up? And I think those are the big question marks for Seattle.
And they drafted Jalen Milroe as well. We know that Sam Darnold is QB1 as it stands right now, but there are reports coming out of training camp that he's really progressing. He's been picking up the offense, all positive things for Jalen Milroe. So, Turbo, how beneficial is it for Jalen Milroe? Because there was conversations of him in the draft process, like, I don't know if he's ready, should he go? But having that opportunity to go to an organization like Seattle and learn a little bit behind Sam Darnold and kind of not be thrown right into things, how beneficial is that for Jalen Milroe at this stage of his career?
It's great. I mean, the benefits are huge for him. If you look at other quarterbacks and some examples, you know, Jordan Love got to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre. Pat Mahomes sat before he was a starter behind Alex Smith. You look at Anthony Richardson now in Indianapolis, kind of thrown into the fire with what you're saying, and he's had some struggles. And so for Jalen Milroe to be able to sit back with a great offensive mind and Clint Kubiak, who's the offensive coordinator, and not have the pressure of being the starter right away, I think it's hugely beneficial for him. I think eventually, it may not be this year, but I think he'll be a starter for Seattle at some point in his career. He's that talented, but to be able to learn the game from the sideline first is going to be humongous for him.
Let's switch things over to the defensive side of the ball. This squad really looking to make strides in year 2 under Mike Macdonald. So, B-Mac, what is your confidence level that we can see improvements on the defense in Seattle?
My confidence level is really, really high, and it's because I believe in Mike Macdonald. His ability to scheme up great defensive opportunities for his players has been well documented, not to mention the timely ability to be aggressive and hit on those aggressive calls. Then when you look at the personnel, Leonard Williams was outstanding a year ago. People often overlook what he did last season, Turbin, when you look at 11 sacks. Now, they need a massive jump from Byron Murphy II, right? Rookie, a year ago, first-round selection. Didn't really, scratch the surface and being dominant, but we know the potential was there. Hopefully, he takes a massive jump, not to mention DeMarcus Lawrence. He only played in 4 games for the Dallas Cowboys a year ago. We know what type of difference maker he can be, and I love Devon Witherspoon in the back end. I think he's set up to have an all-pro-like year because of his aggressiveness, not to mention how instinctive he is in terms of attacking the ball. And Nick Emanwori, I understand he might be a name you might not throw out in the month of September, but by October, November, I believe he will be Mike Macdonald's version of Kyle Hamilton, the player he coached in Baltimore, based on the skill set that Nick Emanwori has in terms of being versatile, not to mention very, very aggressive.
So, gentlemen, we want to get the schedule predictions very quickly. The Seahawks, they start and end their schedule with the Niners, a handful of primetime games. But, Robert, what is the schedule prediction for the Seahawks for 2025?
I think it's a 9-8 season for Seattle, and that's positive. I think Seattle fans, might look at that as a little bit of a disappointment, but when you think about the newness that's on the offensive side of the football, the upgrades on defense, I think are great, but there's too many question marks, I think, still on the offensive side, where I think 9-8 to me is a good record for them. I think that's good enough to be a wild card team in the NFC this season. Hard to win games, but that's my prediction for them this year.
Rob, great minds think alike. Me and Rob did not talk about the schedule, what we thought the prediction would be, but I'm right there with you. I see 9-8 as well. And I can easily see the NFC West having 3 teams potentially getting to the playoffs. So I think this will be a very, very competitive division. I could see that could be a reality when you look at some of the top teams in the NFC West. But to your point, 9-8 is, I think, is a realistic number. And like I said, there will be a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold and offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak to be able to get the most out of this offense, starting with the quarterback.
All right, so the guys are...
No bias, B-Mac. I told you. No bias.
You did? Hey, that's why you're a professional.
Hey, they're in agreement. 9-8. That is where they see Seattle. CBS Sports HQ, we got you covered in the offseason and when the season comes around. We have news, highlights, scores. It is all here, and it is all for free.